All right, let's do it. Method Man actually went to. Let me pull up the actual thing that Method Man said, and I don't want to take him out of context. But Method Man and Redman performed at Hot 97 Summer Jam this past weekend, and they were on the Mr. C, not Mr. C, Mr. C
Yes,
set.
man, it's
So
top.
they were paying homage to the late great Mr. C, and I guess Method Man didn't feel the energy from that New York crowd. So he posted on Instagram. He says, "Not our crowd at all. Thanks again, New York and the whole tri-state that showed up for the event. Plus, Pete and Ebro. I got love for you guys, but never again. At this point, the generation gap is just too wide for me. Hashtag never coming back." Now, the people that were on Hot 97 Summer Jam set was Doja Cat. I think Doja Cat was headlining. Offset, Sexy Red, Method Man and Redman, Sleepy Hollow, uh, Davio, 41, T Grizzly. And they had more people too, but
Okay.
so a lot of people were in an uproar about the fact that Method Man said he's never coming back, but he was able to rock the Roots picnic in Philly, and Nas was also in that set. Jill Scott was also in that set. What do you guys think about what Summer Jam? I guess that's where we're going to start. What Summer Jam has become, and does Hot 97 in New York City need to just 86 Summer Jam and just kind of do something else, because they got the Mayor's Ball, they got Rock the Bells. Do we really even need Summer Jam anymore?
Go ahead, Ron. I'm gonna let you go first. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when we talk about Summer Jam, right? I don't think Summer Jam has been relevant for the last 10 years, maybe even longer than that.
Right.
The atmosphere of music has changed since social media arose through the ranks. We got Twitter, you got IG, you got people, you got TikTok. So the radio, the importance of radio, of us consuming music and talking about music, is no longer relevant. We're not waking up in the morning. We got Sirius XM, we got YouTube, we got podcasts like ours, like others, that really disseminate the information and talk to the culture. So we don't really need the radio personalities to drive music. The ad space has changed, streaming has changed the game with Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. So you really don't need the radio to kind of drive it. And the audience is getting younger anyway, right? So there's other venues like the Roots Picnic, like Rolling Loud, the Dreamville Fest. You don't need these summertime festivals. They're not as important as they used to be, because you got to think about it. Even in Atlanta, the birthday bash, that ain't been hot since Ti got out of jail. You talking about almost 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So that was the last summer jam that I could remember that had people talking, when he came out and did his thing against Flip. So I
Yeah.
don't think you really need that. I think they should retire it. I don't think it's culturally relevant. I don't even think the artist that was in that earlier generation, our generation, should even perform. It's for kids, man. It's like back to school specials and handing out backpacks and shoes and shit. You don't need to be at. I mean, you could go do that on your own time, but those. I mean, you look at the sponsors of the joint. You know what I'm saying? It's not the demo. It's not the demo for Meth and Red. I think the
Who
Roots
were the
Picnic is where they see it.
sponsors? When you say that, who were the sponsors?
I had it pulled up. Let me find the sponsors of those joints. Let
Okay,
me pull up
James
the
Smith with the
sponsors.
super chat says, "Would Kendrick sound better over the DLC's Funky Enough beats or Gin and Juice beats?" I think that where he is as an artist, it would have to be more of the Gin and Juice caliber. But I think he would sound good over the Funky Enough stuff. I think he would have to use kind of his higher pitch tone with the Funky Enough stuff, as opposed to with the Gin and Juice stuff. He could actually, what I'm saying, do his spitting that he normally does. Now, this is what I want to pull up, though. I do want to pull up the Roots Picnic, and I know you said it was like a younger demo, but older people are going to festivals and concerts, and this is what the Roots Picnic lineup looked like. Saturday, they had Jill Scott Nas. Now, granted, they had Sexy Red, and people were in an uproar for that. They had The Dream.
Come on, Mac.
They had J. Dot Period doing his live mixtape with Black Thought, Method Man and Redman, Marsha Ambrosia, Funk Flex, October London, who sounds like Marvin Gaye, so he doesn't really cater to like a younger audience like that either. Then they had some of the younger acts, and let's see, what was the other day? Sunday, they had Lil Wayne performing with the Roots, Andre 3000, who also did the Jazz Festival here in Atlanta the week before, which was sold out as well. Gunna. Then they had Babyface. Then they had Robert Glasper, Fantasia, Cameron, Wale, Scarface, A. Marie. I mean, they were able to have, acts that span over 30 years, recent people. Why isn't Hot 97 able to do these things? Because they have been around longer than the Roots Picnic. They have all the advertising connections and relationships possible. What is stopping them, who are holding their concert at the Meadowlands and who have a legacy? What's stopping them from having a diverse selection of artists, to really reflect their audience? What's stopping them from being able to do this? Because this festival was able to sell to all demographics.
I mean, out of touch with they out of touch with the culture, Mike. As I said, the streaming era and social media changed the relevancy of radio. We don't need them to really dictate and move the culture forward. A lot of the things that they were doing back in the day, like payola and being the only voice that spoke to the culture directly, is not true anymore. We got podcasts like ourselves. We got other podcasts in the space. You got Joe Budden doing a great podcast. You got all these other NFR. You got all these other spaces. Dead End Hip Hop. We don't need to really go to the radio. If you look at what Breakfast Club is doing now, they streaming their morning show like we streaming ours. They got phones set up and they're going directly to Facebook now. So they're copying the way the culture is shifting to social media, the way we consume content. So it's not relevant anymore. All the sponsors have moved on to streaming. All the sponsors have moved on to social media. So we don't really have to wake up in the morning and hear what Peter Rosenberg or Ebro or Laura Stiles got to say about anything. And then we talk about why can't they do it? They were never smart anyway. I mean, these people would just control the culture because that was the only way you could disseminate the music. They wasn't like some geniuses in a room that picked the records and the program. The records was the smartest guys. They were getting bags of money dropped off at the office, right, and the records got played. Whether it was the record labels or whether it was the dope boys, that's how the music got funneled. We knew this back in the day when we were trying to break in the game. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about the music. It was about who had the bigger bag. So now that the landscape has shifted, they can't keep up. So they done. And now it's time for us to come out with our own festival and do the shit to connect to the people that we need to connect to. That's why it ain't working no more, man. To answer your question.
I have my thoughts on it. I'm gonna let Leroy go, and then I'll say what I gotta say. Let me get to. Can I get to the super chat real quick before you go, Leroy?
Go ahead, brother.
My mere thought says, whenever a rapper gets a Black Thought feature, they rap like their life is on the line. Do your research. I agree.
That's fine.
He's probably the most feared MC in the game, if we're gonna be honest about it. Go ahead.
Whenever y'all want to have an in-depth Lupe conversation, I'll be here on Saturday. Okay, on Saturday we can do it with Mike here too, because Mike already know. But this is what and Lupe is the X factor. Method Man is top 10 of all time. Why? Because I just believe he is. Now, if we want to argue it, why do I say that? Because I don't care about what you care about. What do you care about? You care about, is he the most famous? Is he the most radio-ish? Is he the most Hollywood-ish? I only care about bars. This is what makes me different from y'all. I only care about bars. Now let's talk about a bridge, though, between the industry and the podcast. This is why I don't declare war out the gate, because I talk about bridge building, right? There's a bunch of moving parts with creating a summer jam. There's the artists, there's the industry, there's the sponsors, there's the plane tickets, there's the crews, there's the managers, there's there's the corporate backing, there's the whole system. So all these parts are moving. It is not easy, folks. So this is why I would like to create a bridge between the podcasts that are out there, the networks that are moving the culture, between those of us that believe in bars. And I'm not saying that the other artists are not about bars, but what I'm saying is their lineup, the reason why you might they had a Wale on there, right, Mike?
Yeah, Wale was on the set. Well, the Roots Picnic had him on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Roots Picnic. So we still believe in bars out there. I'm not saying everybody threw bars out the window. So we still believe in bars. I want to create a bridge so that way we can all feel comfortable in communication with each other. I understand that there are moving parts with these situations. So I'm not gonna say that it's just all, I'm not gonna say the intention was bad or they just don't know what's going on with the culture, right? So that's all. That's all. And by me mentioning Lupe, Method Man, I'm mentioning people that are not at the forefront of your relevant conversations. I'm mentioning them one because Method Man just gave his opinion on Summer Jam, and we were just talking Lupe last week, so I'm mentioning them because we were already talking about them. But these guys are not in the everyday cycle of conversation like Ice Spice is. You know what I'm saying? So that's all.
Jay Short with the super chat says maybe Method Man would have gotten a better reaction if he had his own classic material. Let's keep it real. He has the worst resume out of out of all the rappers in the top 20. He didn't put the work in musically. Ooh.
We can pull up Method Man's solo albums, and I'll go with anybody. Get your favorite rappers, and we'll go bar for bar, and I'll show you why Method Man is top 10. I don't say these things just because they sound hot. I say them because I did the homework before I said it. Hello.
Well, all right. Did you ever find those sponsors, Ron? Because I think that's an important piece of the puzzle.
No. I couldn't. I did some digging, and I couldn't find the 2024 sponsors, but I did find the 2023 sponsors: Smirnoff,
okay,
Black Girl Sunscreen, and Warner Records were the sponsors.
I think it's very problematic when a record label is a sponsor for a radio station's concert. I don't see how that's not payola, but again, there are ways around things, I guess. All right,
I'm not seeing 2024. I'm not seeing. I'm not. It was at UBS Arena. I'm not seeing any sponsorship on the 2024 site right now, but that was 2023 sponsors. But again, all the sponsors have gone to streaming. They've gone to social media. They've gone to different outlets, man.
Yes and no, because if there weren't radio sponsors at Hot 97 right now, right this minute, and maybe New York could check us or whatever, the radio station wouldn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So they're around for a reason. And I guess we would have to find out that reason, but I would have to believe that they still have sponsors. They still have a sales department. They still have people who are running their advertising from day to day. This is their job.
It's slash. But those advertising budgets have been. They're not making them. They're not making the money that they made 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. It's changed. That's why you see this. You see that's why a lot of them are trying to get their podcasts going and going to streaming. They're not. They're not spending the money in radio like that.
I agree, but that's all the more reason. It's kind of like BET, right? With the BET Awards. And you would think that a network that's playing nothing but like Martin reruns and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reruns all freaking year can spend that whole year in putting together their awards show. Now, these radio stations, let's just say, their sponsorship dollars have waned to the side, right? They should be able to understand, like, look, Summer Jam is a brand. It has a name outside of this radio station, and we need to make sure that we're able to sell concert tickets. So my question would be, and this is just a rhetorical question, I don't expect anybody out here to really know the answer, who are they actually selling these tickets to? Are they really selling these tickets? Because I know people that was at the Roots Picnic of all age demographics. I've seen a man who was 60-something years old going, and people who were 19, 20 going. And there's no excuse in a market like New York City and with the airwaves that an institution, I would say, like Hot 97 has, whether it's just a radio dial or, like you said, Ron, being on social media and being active in that way, that they're not able to galvanize the vast demographic that is in the city of New York. The problem is what they have done with these radio stations. You spoke about Hot 107 here in Atlanta with their birthday bash. for whatever reason, and I think we all know the reason, these concerts are centered around what they still play on the radio. And that's not good enough anymore. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to step outside of what you're playing on the radio. You better get Jill Scott down here. You better get, you know what I'm saying? You better get Erykah Badu out there. You better have a mixture of musical experiences, because we're in a streaming era. People aren't just listening to what's current. People are listening to stuff that came out last week. People are listening to stuff that came out 5 years ago. And people are listening to stuff that came out 30 years ago at the same rate. And the reason why the Roots Picnic, Rock the Bells, Coachella, you name it, succeeds is because they feed into all of those things. And not just the people who are here currently. They're feeding to the big artists. They're feeding to the up-and-coming artists. They're feeding to the legendary artists. They're doing all of those things. And a Summer Jam stage just doesn't give you any of those things. And I think that when Method Man or somebody like that gets on stage, they see an audience that came here to see Doja Cat, respectfully. You know what I'm saying? And what you've done is you've minimized the people who are in those audience. So when you do get a legendary performer to come out, they're like, man, I'm not coming back to this. You know what I'm saying? But when they go to a Roots Picnic, the audience knows that I'm going to a show where I'm going to see a variety of acts. And I always had a problem with the fact that when I don't say a problem, but Coachella, when they start getting the big acts on stage, like it really killed those independent acts or those up and coming acts, because people used to go to these festivals to see what was next. Once you start having somebody like a Beyonce on stage, and I say this respectfully because I think Beyonce is our greatest performer of this era. She brings out a certain audience that ain't trying to hear no new artists. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I want to know when she goes on stage. And so when you start to have certain acts on your roster, you're bringing in an audience that only wants to hear one thing. And on these radio stations and their festivals, it's just what's on the radio. And for whatever reason, they can't seem to go outside of what's on the radio. The Roots had Babyface on the lineup, man. When's the last hit Babyface had on the radio? It doesn't matter. People are going to go see him live anyway.
This is why I talk about performative arts. I've been calling rap performative arts for the last couple weeks. If y'all learn. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is today, more songs come out in one day than our era the whole year would come out. So in our era, all of the songs that came out in 1 year, those amount of songs come out per day now. So now it's about the art, right? Picking the best performers. Method Man used to start his show by laying down on a bench like he had just passed out from drinking and laying down on a bench outside. So the stage would be set up like a bench, like he's laying on a park bench, and then he would jump up and start performing. That's performative arts, people. That's when you're more than a rapper. And that's what I've been stressing. So if we can get back to that, and yes, it's about expansion, expanding the market. We have our true, when Common and Pete Rock drop, we have our true essence, purity rap. We have that. But sometimes it's about expansion. And when it comes to Summer Jam and these type of performative concerts, we want to bring in as many people as possible. So that causes for a variety of music and a performative aspect to the rappers. So Busta Rhymes, Method Man, Eminem, but Missy or whoever. These are performative artists that need to be on the stage, whether Sexy Red is popping, no disrespect to Sexy Red, whether Suki or was popping, no disrespect to her, or Ice Spice, no disrespect to her either. But it's performative arts, and let everybody get their time to spit their 1-2. You know what
Jay
I mean?
Short with the super chat says, just devil's advocate, do you think that music is moving so fast now that by the time a lot of people's performance came on, these songs are already old and dated? A lot of these rappers can't improve. You know what? I mean, to that point, and to Leroy's point, I think that what could slow down that process, and I'm not trying to sound like a get off my lawn individual, but I think that certain young or newer artists or artists in this era need to take the performance side of things seriously. I think that when you're able to perform your record and what you're talking about, like you said, performative arts, you can make a record last a lot longer with that stage performance. And people will be like, yo, I wanted to see when he did this or he did that. Can you imagine in the social media era if Michael Jackson debuted Billie Jean on Motown 25 or debuted the Moonwalk on Motown 25? Like that would live forever in any era. But see, we can't even pinpoint who's the best performers in hip hop in this era. Can we really do that? I mean, the first name that I'm gonna come with is somebody who's been around for a minute, and that's Travis Scott. Like, who's the best hip hop performer in this era?
But Travis Scott's not. I mean, let's go back to the basics of the question, though. Hot
Right.
97, they're leading themselves to irrelevance, right? Because one, the old ways are not working. There's a new way to disseminate music to reach the culture. They don't have the ingenuity to do it. They're not. The resources are dwindling, and people with limited resources are getting other opportunities with sponsors to create something like when we do our According Hip Hop Festival. We'll be able to curate, a good show. I mean, it's not. I mean, just being in the culture and no one speaking to the people, we know how to create a good show. Hell, we got a venue in Atlanta or New York or LA. We can get get a promoter. We can put together a good show and put A2HH on. It's not hard to do. You know what I'm saying? You got to be in tune with the people. Number two,
Can I interject real quick? Because I agree with what you're saying, and I think in a vacuum, yes. I think what really hurts radio from that concept, they seem to have to stay within the confines of what is played on radio. You know what I mean? And that
right,
limits them.
right, and that's why this shows. That's why Summer Jam is dead, and it's not well thought out. It's only because the record labels are dropping off bags that are aligned with whatever few sponsors they have left to promote what they want to promote. And then we got to also get back to the record label game. You know what I'm saying? We got to understand that these labels are not what social media and social media and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram has done. We don't have artist rollouts anymore. We don't really create an atmosphere for artists to grow, to hone their craft, to get their performative skills up. We just don't have that. It's about shaking ass. It's about
Not
you know
that.
what I'm saying.
We got
That's what it is. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, and another thing that hurt New York, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm Super Duper wants to get on here too in a bit and cook. I will say the death of Pop Smoke set New York back. Y'all might not believe me in the chat, but
I think Mad Max agrees with you.
I saw Pop Smoke's wave. I saw him before he died in London, and I mean he had the crowd. He was a star. You know what I'm saying? He was a star in the social media era. Or Pop, they had. And when Pop died, I mean, shit, it put New York back a little bit.
We got artist development. We got performative development. We got whatever you need, artists. If you need whatever you need to hit that stage and make it electrifying, we got that. Holla, we got that. We'll meet you in. I'll meet you in your city, rappers. I'll meet where are we performing at? I'll meet you in your city. Whatever you need for make it a performative arts experience. Give me a heads up. With a few weeks or a month at best, what is it? What is it? Because we're about this. We're about this. Now I know what the radio does, but I'm just saying what we need to do to make this culture better. The players are already on the chessboard. Whatever we need to do to step this thing up 1,000%, the players are already on the chessboard, y'all.
Let me get to the super chat real quick. Jermaine Johnson says Method Man challenged himself and hasn't cursed on any songs or verses in over 12 years and still sounds hard. True MC. I didn't realize that. And again, we don't even really be checking for that if you snapping. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Mike, to your point, the people have proven that they want to see legacy acts, even more so now than new acts. Ask Wu-Tang, ask Nas how full their 2023 tour / shows were. And that's what makes Summer Jam even more suspect. There's actual data and analytics and numbers to back the fact that legacy acts actually sell tickets more than current acts, and they still go the other way. It makes you feel like and you said that Warner Brothers was one of their sponsors, or Warner Records was one of their sponsors in 2023. It feels like the Summer Jam stage is just a stage put on for major record label artists, and to promote their acts and put their acts on stage. This isn't about actually having a hip hop concert for the hip hop fan base, and this is New York City, man. Like, this is the birthplace of hip hop. There are hip hop fans in New York City that are 70 years old. So you can't sit here and act like the hip hop demo in this city is just young guys or young women. This is a demo that spans from probably 10 years old to 70 years old. This is New York City. There's no excuse for that. They don't want the legacy acts on there because these legacy acts aren't tied down to contracts anymore from major record labels. So it seems.
It does, man. Super duper, man. Super, what's up, brother?
What's really good, fellas? What's popping?
What's good,
What's
bro?
good? What's on your mind? What you got? What's your thoughts on the conversation?
Hey, the real elephant in the room when it come down to what Method Man was getting at, and what nobody really saying on this panel is that that was a younger demographic out there to see younger artists, right? But the real thing is that the younger generation just don't got no respect for the game. That's really what it boiled down to. Because I mean, a legend like Method Man and Redman going on the stage, and them people pretty much acting like they don't even know who they are, and they really, honestly, probably don't, because the younger generation don't reach back in their hip hop bag. They don't really go back. We keep on having this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, imagine us in 1996 going to a Summer Jam concert and Slick Rick hit the stage, or Run DMC hit the stage. We gonna show them some respect. We gonna know who they are. You know what I mean? And like we got respect for the game. This younger generation really just don't have no respect for hip hop. And I honestly almost believe that they really not even real hip hop fans. They not hip hop fans, honestly. They don't really care.
Whole lineup, if you don't mind.
Whose fault is that?
I just pulled it up, and I do want to. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I would want to go through the acts that were on this lineup because I didn't have an accurate one before. It says Doja Cat and Friends, Sexy Red, French Montana, David O, Lola Brooks, Cash Cobain, Bay Swag, Honey Baby, Fabio Foreign, 41, Sleepy Hollow, Connie Diamond, Ty Dolla $ign and Friends, celebrity host A Boogie, celebrating the life of Mr. C with Big Daddy Kane, Jadakiss, EPMD, Eric B, Rakim, Method Man and Redman, Lord Tariq, and Peter Guns.
And they probably got the same treatment that Method Man and Redman got.
I'm sitting there reading off these first names, man. I'm like, who is going to this concert? And what they did is these, like you said, people who ain't got respect for the game. Like, these are acts that I hate to say it, man. It sound like 14, 15-year-olds know. And I think 14, 15, 16-year-olds don't have enough. The brains aren't developed enough to even have that kind of respect for the game for Eric B and Rakim. Like, that's literally like when we were 18, the damn Temptations coming out at one of our concerts or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but we would still respect the music though, because we like the Temptations. We still
like,
grew up on that music.
We would be like, if the Four Tops came out when we came to see goddamn Jagged Edge or something, niggas would be like, yo, why are you here? Respectfully.
No,
That's true,
I don't think so. I don't think so, Mike. Well, I don't think so.
Is clearly so young. Look at the
bridge building, man. Bridge building.
So the question is, what happened though? What happened? Why is this new generation lack the respect that the previous generation had? Because the Super Duper's point, if Michael Jackson came out with Janet or with Jagged Edge was coming, we would go crazy. Or Prince came out.
Jackson. That's
or just say Luther Vandross. Let's say Luther Vandross or Keith Sweat. Let's say Keith Sweat. Our guy came out. Or Blackstreet came out. Or In Vogue came out. We still would show respect. You know
I want to get the numbers right here, Ron. It's 2024. Eric B and Rakim came out in 1988. 87. Yeah, 87, because Follow the Leader is 88. 87. You know how many years ago that is?
Well, no, what I'm
37
saying
years
though.
ago. So let's put
What I'm saying.
ourselves, let's say the year 2000, I was 18, you were 17, year 2000. You know what 37 years from 2000 is?
Okay, that's the
It
point you're
ain't
making.
Keith Sweat.
That's the point you're making. But what
Yeah,
about
this is a big span. This is a
Yeah,
young audience.
but at
And
the
they
same time, though, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, go ahead. I was just saying they haven't developed enough to even have that kind of respect because these acts go back so far. And I'm not putting it on the audience per se. I'm putting it more so on the people who put together this show. They didn't put enough range in the individual lineup for the OGs to succeed. I see what Method Man's talking about when I look at this lineup. They got 15-year-olds in the audience. Like, Into the 36 came out 31 years ago now. Like,
The bridge.
But Method Man and Redman's they celebrity status cross over even
right.
after the music though too though. You know what I'm saying? Like Method Man is on one of the hottest shows that's been out within the last so many years. Redman, he still stay relevant. He was on the show. They still celebrity status. You know what I'm saying? I just think that this it's still this age discrimination thing. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that they just was looking at him like what are they even talking about? Like they probably didn't know nothing. They didn't know none of the songs. They couldn't understand the bars. It's a whole total generation gap that just hopped and skipped over them dudes, and they just didn't know nothing about it.
Ron,
I just think it's one of those why are you here moments. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Ice Spice knows who Method Man is. If there was two teams could get together and they could be like, hey, Ice Spice, this is Method Man. Hey, Method Man, this is Ice Spice. They know the music. You know what I'm saying? It's just the bridge has got to be built. No, that's it, man. And it is when we hit these stages, I know there's politics involved, but hip hop is the leading culture of the planet Earth. The planet Earth watches what hip hop does as a model for culture. So let's get it together and make those bridges and make it rock, make it go.
You know who else is to blame too for this? It is the radio stations.
It is.
Because it's we're really it should definitely be some blend of some Wu-Tang, some Redman, like some Nas, some Jay, still play with this music so they can get familiar with the music too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And make new music too, so it's like none of that stuff's getting supported. So you got these young cats who aren't even familiar with these artists outside of the fact that they know that these are people their parents listen to. Now, we all got kids, man. Y'all understand what it's like when you turn 15, 16. You don't even want to go to the mall with your parents. I remember when I reached a certain age, I was walking so far ahead of my parents and all of that. It's like we're asking the people in that age demographic to have respect for music that their parents listen to. It's like they don't want to listen to what their parents listen to, at least not yet. And when Method Man saying what he's saying, I'm thinking this is an audience of about 15, 16-year-olds. And this is New York. So people getting on the train, you ain't even got to have your parents drop you off at the venue. But if this was any other city, it sounds like this is an audience that gets dropped off at the venue by their parents.
That's true.
When your son grows past you, when your son is taller than you, he tends to think he's a little more cooler than you at that point. So he walks in front of you, right? And you're like, hey, you're not cooler than me. You're the mini version that happened to grow taller. You know that in his mind, he's cooler. But they still respect the OGs, man. You know what I mean?
Super chat says, let's be honest. No 18-year-old ever heard Blackout. Ever is strong, but I'm sure a lot of people in that audience have.
But that's a damn shame. That's a damn shame. For real. And then
more of playing my hip hop to my daughter too. Like she just went to the Megan and Glorilla concert, and that's their era. I let people have their era, but I'll play my tribe every now and then. But it's not like I'm hammering my hip hop into the kids' head. I kind of let them have their era. And when they ask me like, yo, what's that? Then, let them know and give them a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt Max to the super chat says, oh, go ahead, Super Duper, my bad.
No, I was just going to say it'll be a lot of them same people that'll jump in this chat and be trying to argue down, trying to tell us that, him or Kendrick is the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? It's that same crowd of people that just don't know enough to really even be having these type of hip hop greatness debate conversations. Really, that think they know it all. You know, the kids always think they know it all.
I think when you love hip hop to a certain magnitude, you'll go do the research. Like I mean, I didn't grow up in the '80s with Run DMC or even Rakim, so my hip hop experience in the '90s, they were before me. I had to go back and really appreciate the greatness of what they did and how incredible the strides and the music that they made was, because I loved hip hop so much. If I was just a surface hip hop fan, like most people are, I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. They're only going to listen to the hip hop from their era and in the moment.
Yeah, because Mike, let me push back a little bit. That's because, Mike, you had time to think. You had time to think. It wasn't internet at the house, so you spent time outside. You were outside. These kids they're inside because they got the internet. We were outside. There was no internet. So we went to the record store. Let me see what's going on. Let me go down this aisle, pick out the new albums. Let me go down here. Let me look in the back, see if I can get some vinyl. We had time on our hands to look. These kids, they don't go outside like that. So and then there's 1,000 more songs. So I hear you, Mike, but I'm just pushing back a little bit.
They do have a lot of songs to choose from. Mad Max with the super chat says Slick Rick for you was Lil Wayne for these kids. He said Slick Rick for you was Lil Wayne for these kids. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says they feel guilty for asking legacy acts to perform while simultaneously never supporting any of their new music. I live in NYC and Nas couldn't get a Hot 97 spin from his Hit Boy run to save his life, shaking my head. And ridiculous, because records like, I asked Ebro on Twitter. I've never seen Ebro, never met him. Love to ask him in person. I asked him why Get Light isn't getting played on Hot 97 radio. Sounds like a perfect radio record to me. Like, explain to me why Nas Get Light is not a radio record in New York City.
Why did Nas not go to the radio station and premiere the song?
He went to the radio station and interviewed for King's Disease, the first one. They interviewed him, and I think King's Disease 2, Ebro interviewed him on Apple Music, so they were very aware of what was going on. What I'm saying?
Nas doesn't have to do that. Nas is already Nas, so he don't need to go nowhere.
But he don't have to do any of that, but he did it anyway. And all they had to do was support the music, and they didn't do that.
I think it's
Nas. I would be cool. It would be cool if I turned on the internet and saw Nas do an interview. I would think that was cool. That's all I
think it's a conspiracy against hip hop, just in general, really. I mean, like I said, especially from the older hip hop, I really think it's a conspiracy, because if you really look at it, right, we got old school R&B stations that still play Jodeci and old '90s R&B, but we don't have any radio stations that's playing like old school hip hop. I'm talking about real radio stations, not no satellite radio type stations. I'm talking about something that can be on the everyday airwaves or that you can turn on in your car. There's nowhere really where you can go that they're gonna have the Roots or Nas or old school hip hop kind of on the radio. You know what I mean?
There were a lot of old school hip hop stations that popped up here in Atlanta, and this was maybe about 5-10 years ago, I believe. But I remember, to your point about the old school R&B stations that our parents used to listen to, they would play the Isley Brothers' old stuff and they would play their new stuff.
Yeah.
They would play, you know what I'm saying? And that's the difference between these old school, quote unquote, hip hop stations. And I remember when one of them launched here in Atlanta, shout out to DJ Nabs, these cool people. I asked him straight up, like on Twitter, like, look, why do the old school hip hop stations not support the new music that Snoop Dogg or Public Enemy and these guys are putting out? And it's like, well, maybe we'll get to that later or whatever, something like that. But that's the biggest problem. Okay, we can have old school stations, but these guys that you're just playing gin and juice all day, every day, Snoop's making new stuff. Support that too. That's a problem.
I mean, for hip hop to be such a popular genre, you still got all '80s rock stations. You got country music stations that play the old hits. You got, you still get those stations for those other genres of music. But for the most part, we really don't have no real old school hip hop stations, at least on a national platform, or from state to state, city to city type thing. You know what I'm saying?
For me, I feel like if these are quote unquote old school hip hop stations, right, and they only are going to play the stuff from Doggy Style, Bitch Please, whatever, the Chronic, all the old stuff. But these same artists are making new things now, and you're not supporting that. It just feels like a money grab for old catalogs that record labels still own the rights to. Because many of our classic artists are independent now, and they put out music whenever they want to. But you don't want to support the new stuff that they're making that they have ownership of. That's what it feels like. It feels like, okay, this is just a catalog money grab for the labels to make money off of records that were 30-something years old.
And that's a shame,
right.
because both ends of the table could win. If they did it the other way, if they did it the way that you're suggesting, Mike, the numbers would still go up anyway. So they're making certain moves that it doesn't matter. You could let the artists run what they want to run and do a show that hip hop, the culture, can appreciate. The number's still going to go up anyway. You know what I mean? So
let me say this real quick before y'all go, because we outlined a lot of problems. So I think what's important to say is that platforms like ours, we're going to offer solutions, because I don't think they're capable of changing their ways. I think they're done. I think it's a new day. So we got to continue to build our audience. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and get us to a point where we can do our own festivals, curate our own music, put out our own artists, put out these show these legacy acts the proper respect they deserve, and promote their new music. So we got the solutions, because they're done. Hot 97 is done. They're not going to change. It's over. Hey. They're out the pastures. Put them to bed. They're finished. That's why they copy a lot of the stuff that A2HH does. I mean, we're not just talking the shit just to talk it. You see the Breakfast Club is shooting their shit live, putting it on Facebook. They got 100 people in the room, and they only got 4,000 views. So on our Facebook video we could put out can get like 11,000 views there. So we're lapping them already. We just need to get people to support us. That's why it's important you tell a friend, hit like and subscribe, so we can continue doing what we got to do on A2HH, because they're done. They're done. They're finished.
The artists would love to come perform. The artists would love to see the city. They would love to come out and perform for y'all. The Wu-Tang Clan members or all these artists would love to perform for y'all. So it could be done, y'all. It could be done.
We're gonna do it because they're finished. They're done. I hate to say that they're done, Mike. They're done. They're finished.
Jay Short chat says, Mike, the old school stations back then played our parents' music. These old school stations now play a twisted view of what 90s hip hop / R&B was. A lot of Eminem, Justin Timberlake, and Bruno Mars. I think that's a fair point. Even though I'm on an Eminem conversational sabbatical right now, you're right. Jay Short with the super chat says, also, I think because there was more sampling in music back then, us and our parents could kind of listen to the same music because there was a connection. I think that's a great point. I remember when I heard Juicy the first time, my dad was like, okay, I'm with this, but he's kind of butchering this song a little bit, but you can still bob your head because you knew where it came from, right? And my dad really loved Ice Cube. Today Was a Good Day. The Isley Brothers sample, that was just a perfect record. Brian with the super chat says, as time goes on, the new generation respect old generation less, because we're getting farther from that sound. And every year that goes by, it sounds more dated to the kids. Do you think that's a sonic thing, though? Yeah. Do you think that sonically, going away from the samples, all these new sounds that come in, it makes the old school shit sound super old school?
I mean, go ahead, Leroy.
I don't know about that, man. Yes and no. But if we want to talk about the new sound, we got no problem with the new sounds. We can skate over those sounds, no problem. I skate. But with the old sounds, it's art about it, right? When someone takes a loop that is 1 second and they turn it into a whole production, there's an art to that. And I
Yeah.
think the youth can respect that. I think the youth are smart enough. They can respect that, especially since they grew up on those songs anyway. So you
Yeah.
get on stage and you play the original sample and you stop the record and you say, you see how that part was only was only half a second? And I took that half a second and made this beat. After they hear that, they'll be like, whoa, like, so it's like they expect that. That's art. You know what I mean?
I got a friend who was a music teacher, and he did that for Far Side's running. And they took that, that Run DMC that was at the beginning of King of Rock. Was it King of Rock? No, Rock Box. Like run, DM. And the kids was like, oh, that's the Dilla beat. Run. Right. Yeah. So there are connections to be made from a creative standpoint in that way.
Definitely.
Brian, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Read the super chat.
I was going to say, Brian with the super chat says, in 1997, kids were only 10 years away from Rakim, so they still liked it. In 2024, the kids are 25 years removed from the 90s. The sound is so different to them. What do you say
But
about
at the
that?
same time, though, they are remaking a lot of hooks, choruses. They still using 3-6 Mafia beats, still using like a lot of they still getting a lot of inspiration from the 90s. So a lot of the songs that my daughter and my sons listen to right now, like I hear it and they'll be like, where they got that from? And I'll go play them like the rap version or the original version of it, and they'll be like, oh, this is where they got that from. But I like that one better. You know what I'm saying? They still like what they like better. So I still think that it's the same way like you said when I first heard Let Me Ride from Dr. Dre, and my mother she was like, oh, you know who that is? That's Lakeside, or I want to say Lakeside. That's them. That's
Funkadelic. But yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like she put me on to that. So I had a newfound respect for the old song too. And I still like the old song, but Dr. Dre's version was still better to me. You know what I mean? Like at the time. So so I understand that it can sound dated, but it's still a part. It's just still about the history and the respect for the music that you still just gotta have that respect for the music. Like I felt like it's an indictment on our culture for a Method Man to even feel that way. Like he feel like he was almost embarrassed, you know what I mean? Like, he done put all this work in for all these years. He a legend in the game. And for him to be treated like that by hip hop fans
in New York.
Yeah.
He's performed all around the world.
Yeah. That had to hurt his pride a little bit. You know what I'm saying? For real.
The other thing is too, I think with the lineup that I read, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the artists, and I think this is more on the station and the people who put together this lineup. They're not catering to people who are music fans, and we're not sitting here saying that all young people don't respect music from different, eras or whatever. But it looks like from that lineup, they were catering to the casual music fan who's not gonna dig in the crates, who parents probably wasn't playing them no Wu-Tang Clan. This is just somebody who's like, yo, you want to go to a concert? Cool, type of shit. And I think that is the problem. It's not the whole youth. I think if the lineup had, more quality acts and more variety in there, then this could be prevented. But like Ron said, I think they're incapable of doing such because the people who are making these decisions at these institutions aren't tapped into the culture. They don't care about the culture. And to your point, Super Duper, they probably want to sabotage the culture to some degree.
Yeah, and really, this is where I'll go back to the radio station being to blame, because they could have did a better job of diversifying the crowd.
Yeah,
you could have had more acts that fit in with the Method Man and Redman, so some of their fans could have been there to give them some of that energy, and bridge the gap. You know what I'm saying? To where like where you can see some people that's really rapping it word for word or really hype about seeing Method Man and Redman, and these kids might be looking back like, oh, okay, and they then they get it, and they may want to go back and do their research, or maybe go back and hear a couple of songs or beats or whatever that they did like, and now they looking at Method Man and Redman in a different light.
Exactly. Jay Short with the super chat says, I know this is a hip hop show, but we got to keep it a buck. A lot of the people who were in New York in the 90s are not there anymore.
Yeah, but a lot are. You know what I mean? And even the new generation. Like I said, I'm not going to give up on them completely, but I hear everybody's point, and I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, we just got to do a better job at, Family Feud, man, 444, Family Feud.
I
Hey
told this
Mike, hey
story.
Mike,
Oh, go ahead.
let me ask you. Well, if you go ahead, because this is a little bit off topic, but go ahead with your story.
What I was gonna say, man, I remember in 2014, me and some friends from Miami went to shout out to Will and Kimberly. We went to a Childish Gambino concert here in Atlanta, and we were clearly the oldest people there. And we realized, and at the time, it's 10 years ago, right? At the time, we're like, you know what, we're too old to be in this audience. And it was, even though Childish Gambino is our age, he had a very young audience, and they were passing out like you would think Michael Jackson was performing or something. And
This is
I
America.
can see how, as a performer, and I'm pretty sure this audience that Method Man is speaking of was even younger than that. I could see how a performer would be like, yo, man, this just is not my scene. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there was no disrespect to Childish Gambino. I probably wouldn't go to another one of his concerts because, at least not in that time period, because it's like, yeah, that's not really my scene.
Right.
Hey, what I was gonna ask you, Mike, is have you ever been to the New Music Mondays down there that they do at the old Outcast Studio?
No, I haven't. I didn't know if that was an invite only type thing, or if you could just pull up on Stankonia, because I know exactly what Stankonia is.
Last year I went to it. I was there, and
was it an invite thing, or you just were able to pull up?
Well, one of my homeboys, he a rapper, so you know what I'm saying. Like I just went with him pretty much because I happened to be in Atlanta in the truck, and he happened to be down there with me. But like I said, this is off subject. But if you ever get the chance to go, I suggest you go down there and check them out, and that you will see some nice new acts, from here to from all over. You know what I'm saying? But the way that the DJs do those guys, man, like it's a dirty game right now. It's such a dirty game. Like they right there saying like, hey, you got to come with the bag. You got to come with the money. You want me to play your stuff, your new stuff you want to get on? You got to come with the money. Pay me something. I'm not just going to be playing your records for free in the strip club, or I'm not going to be playing your records anywhere. So, it's a dirty game for the youngsters right now at the same time. But,
it's been like that since I can remember. I know when we was trying to get in the game, and, I don't want to say DJs' names or whatever, but, I do appreciate this one legendary DJ out of Atlanta that actually kept it real with me and was like, well, this is what it's going to cost. I need you to pay me this, and this to get your record on. Because the other ones would just give you roundabout answers like, well, you got to get it popping. You got to get it hot. Give you all that kind of stuff. But at least you'll have a price point on it if that's what the game is. But I do think that there is this thing, and I'm not saying this to all DJs because I think DJs are the center point of hip hop. I do think that there is some resentment to a degree. The DJs are the engine that gets an artist going, and they see the artist from ground level, and those artists blow up and they just pass the DJs by, and the DJs are still sitting there at whatever venue that they're at or whatever radio station that they're at, and now this artist is at the Grammys, or this artist is dating, Rihanna, whatever. And the DJs feel a way about that. Like, I put you on. Like, I remember Ebro said something like, Kanye owes me for playing his records and getting them the way he is. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
You were going to play a record anyway. So
you did your job. Right. And so I think that to saying all that to say, I think DJs are like, well, shit, I'm going to hit you in the head coming in the door. And it is what it is.
They the ultimate gatekeepers. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But that was just a sidebar, man. But if you ever get the chance to go, man, I suggest you go, man. I mean,
I definitely want to.
Yeah, for sure.
I love hearing new music, man, and hearing new artists and looking at new talent, because I think we sometimes get jaded by what is presented to us. And I know that there's a lot of talented people out there. We just got to see them in their element. And That's why it's so disappointing to see lineups like this.
It's
So much talent out there that they can't get past, like you said, the gatekeepers to showcase that talent.
Yeah, and it's a lot of real artists and guys that could possibly bring the game back to where, like where lyrics can be more respected than the hook and stuff like that, but they just don't have the money to play the game, and they don't have the backing.
Somebody said something to me in a music conversation, man. They said, man, we wouldn't even, if there was a Bob Dylan in this era, he wouldn't even be doing music, man. He'd be working at like Guitar Center or something. And that's real. It's like,
hey, guitar
shit that the industry has, like the real talented artists don't want to deal with that. You know what I mean? And there's not enough music people in position to care about the music enough to fight those battles for them either.
True.
Guitar Center be having great artists. Guitar Center also has shows in the store, But what I'm saying is like it just needs to be some communication, man, because the DJ's got to know what's hot, and it's communication between what's in the internet and the artist and the DJ, and a lot of people they don't know how to connect, because it's like I only know who I know, so who do I connect with? And it's like they have to be pointed in a direction, and not to say like someone has to hold their hand, but what I mean is the people that are in the middle that do the publicists and the managers and the street teams that still hang around the artists in 2024. They got to know how to make these connections. Hey, we put this song out a month ago. It's going crazy. Or we put this song out 6 months ago, but it's still going crazy. Give this a shot and let him come down and perform at this venue if he can't perform at the biggest stage in this city. You know what I mean? But these moves gotta be made because it benefits all sides. And people, I don't think people know that.
Well, okay, before we get out of here, before we wrap up, I know we kind of, running a little long. Who is currently the best performer in hip hop?
Out of the younger generation?
Yep, like people who've come out, let's just say over the past 5 years. You can't, that's a problem. You know what I'm saying?
And they came out in the last 5 years. Shit, yeah. I don't know. I like to look at Ice Spice. I mean, she has great performance skills. You know what I'm saying?
No, she looks good, but she's not a great performer.
Yeah, she can't really do too much. She's stiff as a board on the stage.
I think Travis is probably the best performer, but Travis has been in the game for 10 years. So I can't count him. Like, who's come out over the past 5 years?
It hasn't really been too many people that's come out in the last 5 years. If you really think about it, though, like
the greatest performer died. It was Pop Smoke, but he's gone.
Okay, somebody said Doja Cat. I'm okay with that.
Okay, but Doja Cat, she didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This is a trained dancer. This is a B-girl. This is a singer. This is an artist. This is a rapper. This is a personality. This is a trained performative artist who came up in the School of Arts.
Yeah, she's probably the most overall talented artist.
We talk about the knowledge. When we talk about the knowledge of what it takes to go out there, and when you do a show, you have everybody looking like an UFO just landed on that stage. It's because of the knowledge of the arts, man. And when we talk about someone like Doja Cat, she didn't just pop up. It's because she just popped up. This is a trained person who spent years honing her craft. So this is important, y'all.
I see people saying Yeet. I see people saying Coast Contra. I see people saying Playboy Cardi. Playboy Cardi came in the game like 2016, 17, I feel like. But the fact that we're struggling to even, come with some names, I think that's a problem too. Like, and I'm not saying this to be on some, get off my lawn shit, but I do think that the current generation, the current pool of artists really need to put some time and effort into their stage performance, because those are the things that are going to keep you around here for a long time. You know what I'm saying? You could be hot for a second. I like the DaBaby answer. I don't know if DaBaby's 5 years in the game, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, DaBaby's probably one of the stronger performers of his era. I brought all of that up, even about the New Music Mondays and everything, just to really, bring home this point that I'm about to make now, that the younger generation
and us to a certain degree too. We got to really realize that how much we getting spoon fed our rap right now. You know what I'm saying? And like once they really realize how much they getting spoon fed, when it's a whole feast, it's a whole feast of music out there. You don't have to just eat what's on the spoon. You can go over here and get some salad. You can go over here and get some fruit. You can go around this table of this hip hop thing and eat and learn a little bit more about the culture and be more in tune with the actual culture, man. You don't have to be so like locked into your generation
That's
or
why we
you know.
here. That's why we here, folks. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
that's real. And you know, and like you said, I mean, we're in a streaming era too. So if you go see somebody perform and you get their information, you could be riding out to their whole, you know what I'm saying, catalog for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And you got to go to the store. But that's a
Hey.
whole nother topic for a whole nother day, because I think that's what affects all of these things is the fact that people don't buy music anymore.